It's 2 a.m. and your baby is crying again. You've read the books. You've tried the timer. Someone told you to let them cry it out, just for 5 minutes, just until they learn. But somewhere else on this planet, a baby has never cried like this. Not once. Not for more than a few seconds. And the reason has nothing to do with a schedule, a method, or a parenting app. It has to do with a river in Venezuela. In the 1970s, an American writer named Jean Liedloff went looking for diamonds in the jungle. She found something stranger. Deep in the rainforest, she lived among a people called the Iguana, largely untouched by the outside world. And she noticed something that stopped her cold. The babies didn't cry. Not because they were sedated. Not because they were ignored into silence. The opposite. From the moment a iguana baby is born, it is almost never put down. It rides on a hip, a back, a chest, wrapped against warm skin, for nearly the first year of its life. It is there while its mother cooks, there while she walks to the river, there while she talks with other women, laughing, working, living her life. The baby is not the center of attention. It is simply included in it. Liedloff called this the in-arms phase. And she noticed that a baby carried this way rarely has a reason to cry, because it never experiences the gap that so many babies elsewhere experience dozens of times a day, the gap between need and response. The gap of being alone. Think about what a cry actually is. It is not manipulation. It is not a bad habit. It is a signal, tuned by millions of years of evolution, built for a world where a baby left alone for too long was a baby in real danger. Your ancestors did not evolve in cribs, in strollers, in rooms down the hall. They evolved being carried, hour after hour, against a body that was always warm and always near. So when a modern baby cries into an empty room, its body doesn't know it's the 21st century. It only knows one thing. Something is wrong. Isn't that strange? That the instinct is still running code written for a different world? In the 1970s, a developmental psychologist named Edward Tronick ran an experiment that has since become famous in psychology classrooms. It's called the still face experiment. A mother sits with her baby, playing, smiling, responding normally. Then, on cue, she stops. Her face goes blank. No smile, no response, nothing. Within seconds, the baby notices. It reaches out. It smiles harder, trying to get a reaction. It points, it babbles, it escalates. And when nothing comes back, the baby's whole body changes. It turns away. It cries. Some babies even show signs of despair, the kind you'd expect from something much older than an infant. The experiment lasts only 2 minutes. But it reveals something enormous. Babies are not just looking for food and warmth. They are looking for a response. A signal that says, you are not alone, and what you feel matters. Take that away, even briefly, and something in them breaks a little. Now hold that experiment up next to a iguana childhood, where a baby's smallest movement is met, again and again, by a body that is already there. Here's where it gets stranger still. Because the calm doesn't stop with the mother. An anthropologist named Sarah Blaffer HRDY spent decades studying how humans actually raise their children, not just in theory, but across cultures and across time. She found that humans are, biologically, cooperative breeders. That's a term from animal behavior, usually reserved for species like meerkats or wolves, where the whole group helps raise the young. HRDY argued that humans belong in that category too. In other words, you were never meant to be raised by one exhausted parent alone in a quiet house. You were meant to be passed, arm to arm, aunt to grandmother to older cousin to neighbor, a whole web of familiar bodies sharing the weight of you. Anthropologists call this alloparenting, and it shows up again and again in societies living closer to the way humans lived for most of history. A iguana baby isn't just held by its mother. It's held by whoever is near. It listens to adult conversation instead of baby talk. It watches real work instead of colorful toys. And because so many hands are available, no single person is ever pushed to the point of depletion, the point where a cry stops feeling manageable and starts feeling unbearable. Compare that to a household where one parent is alone with a baby for 10, 12, 14 hours a day, with no village, no extra arms, no relief. Doesn't it start to make sense why the crying feels so much harder to bear? Not because something is wrong with the parent, because something about the setup is missing. Liedloff went further. She argued that when a baby's early need for constant contact isn't met, it doesn't just vanish. It can echo forward, showing up later as anxiety, as a restless search for reassurance, as a nervous system that never quite learned it was safe to relax. She called it the continuum concept, the idea that humans carry an ancient blueprint for how they expect to be raised, and that when reality doesn't match the blueprint, something in us keeps quietly searching for what's missing. Not every researcher agrees with every part of her theory. Some scientists point out her observations were more anecdotal than experimental. But the core question she raised still holds up under modern research. Infants regulated by near-constant closeness show measurably calmer stress responses. Their cortisol, the hormone flooding a stressed body, stays lower. Their heart rate steadies faster. Their whole system, quite literally, learns what calm feels like by borrowing it from someone else's body first. That's the part that should stop you. A baby doesn't calm itself down. It borrows calm, again and again, until eventually its own nervous system learns how to produce it alone. Contact isn't comfort on top of survival. For an infant, contact is closer to the training data for its entire nervous system. So picture that Yaquana baby again, riding on a hip through the forest, hearing the low hum of conversation, feeling the sway of footsteps, never once falling into the gap between needing something and being met. By the time that baby is old enough to walk, it isn't clingy. It isn't anxious. Lidloff described these children as remarkably calm, independent, confident enough to wander off and explore, because the foundation underneath them had never once given way. Now think about the modern nursery, the crib in its own room, the baby monitor standing in for a body, the advice to let them cry it out, to build independence early, to not create bad habits. It sounds reasonable on paper, but if HRDY is right about what humans evolved to expect, and if Tronick's still face reveals just how quickly an infant reads absence as danger, then some of what we call independence training might actually be asking a baby's nervous system to solve a problem it was never designed to solve alone. None of this means every parent everywhere has been doing it wrong. Life today rarely allows for a village of extra arms. Most parents are doing something almost impossible, raising a human being with a fraction of the support their biology expects. That's not a personal failure. That's a mismatch between an ancient blueprint and a modern world. But maybe that's exactly why the story of the Yaquana matters. Not as a guilt trip, but as a mirror. It shows what your own body once expected, back before hospitals and cribs and parenting manuals, back when a baby was simply carried, included, and never far from warmth. So the next time a baby cries in the middle of the night, remember what that sound really is. Not a flaw, not a manipulation, just an old signal, still running, still asking the same question it has asked for 100,000 years. Is someone there? And somewhere in the world, on the banks of a river in the Venezuelan rainforest, the answer has always, simply, been yes.